Yes. C. Yes. C. Yes. For the whole.
Grim, this is
yes.
an easy one. Like 4 things happen in
Yeah.
the movie.
You can sum this up in a sentence.
I know
The
you
camera turned
Watch it
left.
fail.
The camera turned right.
remember when
It panned up.
Remember when Graham tried to sum up Star Wars
Did you
3
say
and
it
it took him
panned up?
15 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How dare you? I do
panned
remember
up.
That was
Tilted right.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Whatever. I was thorough. You can't say that I didn't miss a detail.
You're a good man.
That's very. You did not miss a detail.
like
I just wanted them to be fully informed
Too
with
bad
what
I
was
cut
going
10
on.
minutes out.
you
of
have
it.
a better understanding of what happened in episode 3 than even Hayden Christensen.
That's probably true.
yeah.
Okay, we ready to go?
C.
So, fuck yes. Welcome to After the Hype. I'm your host, always, Brian Dressel. With me, as always, is Jonathan Hardesty.
Yo.
And Samantha Garrison.
What's up?
Emily Blake is still gainfully employed, so she will be back at a later date.
Good on you, girl.
Yep, and it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I miss her, but she's working, so I'll take the bittersweet nature of it all. Go, Emily. This week, we stretched really hard. We reached out as far as we could, and we found somebody from our other show, Venture Bros. We have Graham T. Mason on.
Hello, it's me. I'm
was
here.
Really tempted to throw
Not over there.
a fruit in for your middle initial.
You could've.
but that's not the right show.
Tangerines.
Yeah. Hey,
Graham
it
Tangerine.
was.
Write that down.
It was.
You can still use it. It's a different podcast.
Yeah, it's gonna
Rules
be great
apply.
when it's also Tangerine for that show.
Yeah.
Synchronicity.
I only have one episode left of doing the fruits. I'm so happy
yeah.
to be done.
Yeah.
Are there
true.
that many fruits that start with T?
No, I've just given up on that almost immediately.
And he's definitely repeated 3 times.
couple.
Yeah, most definitely. Turns out I don't
mean,
know a lot of fruits.
I was-
I had no
And
idea.
pine fruit, wherever the hell you came up with that one.
That was Nick. That wasn't me.
Oh, okay, sure.
Wouldn't that just be pineapple?
No.
No,
It's pine
it's
fruit.
entirely
They're
different.
white strawberries with red seeds. They look horrifying.
They're anti-strawberries.
Yeah, they look like worst timeline strawberries.
Bizarro strawberries.
Because strawberries are
Mega
already like
strawberries.
so upsetting to look at because they're
Yeah.
inside out fruit.
Yeah, it's really weird. And then you look at pine fruit, and it's like, what the fuck?
Then
is
it's like
that?
screaming in pain.
Yeah, and now we have
Yeah,
like
it just looks painful. Yeah.
now-
Now I want
like-
an animated movie of this.
we have too many minutes recorded talking about pine fruit across the ATH network. We need to stop now.
Well, it's gonna be
Achievement
great
unlocked.
for a pine fruit podcast.
Should I include this on Samwise this week?
You probably should at some
Obvious.
point.
Oh yeah.
Samwise, why is pine fruit?
What is pine fruit?
That is the ultimate question. That's your series finale, right there.
We don't even know what it tastes like. None of us have ever had one. I don't think either.
I don't want to know.
I kind of hope it tastes piney.
Do you think pine fruit is what happens when a strawberry gets a hold of the One Ring?
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
That's it.
Or that's the
Synergy.
Gollum version.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Who knows? Anyhow, let's start with a where have you been doing? I have to talk it's more of a mission than the actual game. I've been playing Red Dead Redemption 2. And I recently came across the missions called The Veteran, and that's what I'm going to be talking about for my where have you been doing. And I'm going to do it as briefly as I can because I don't want to waste people's time. But essentially, at one point in the game, you can meet a guy who is a veteran of the Civil War who's lost his leg, and you befriend him. And the game does such an amazing job creating a friendship with just some random guy. I've never seen it accomplished this well. And it is so, like, it's interesting of, like, you meet a guy who's like, hey, let's go fishing sometime. And then you just get a little blip on the radar. It's like, oh, I guess he wants to go fishing sometime. And that's all you do. You meet up with him and you go fishing. And then he's like, this was a lot of fun. Let's go hunting sometime. You meet up, you go hunting. Like, this was a lot of fun. Let's go hunting again. You meet up, you go hunting. And he fucking dies. And it's like, what the fuck was that? I was all attached to this guy. And he gets gored by a boar? Like,
You should have shot the boar.
I
Why didn't you save your friend
I'm
and get you
doing
guys
that
some pork?
in my head the whole time as I hear the gunshots and he's like, oh no, I hope he's okay. I'm like, that means he's not okay. This fucking game is just ruining my head. And you run over there and he's been gored by a boar and he's bleeding to death and his last words are, take my horse. He's a good horse, even if he's a bit stubborn. And then he dies.
Oh, damn.
And it's like, fuck me.
See,
Like,
this is how I felt playing Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
It was
When
just
like
rough, guys.
when
Growing up.
Buttface 3 dies, it crossing the river.
Yeah, you got dysentery.
always
again.
ford the river.
God,
You're gonna be
just so
fine.
rough.
But yeah, so I love Red Dead Redemption 2. It is a game that if you only play the story, it is a really good game. And if you make your own story, it's one of the best games of this generation. But it does require you to kind of have your own imagination and make yourself the game, which is something that cannot be done by many games. And when it is done well, it's amazing. And this one does it very well. So Red Dead Redemption 2, The Veteran, is what I was talking about. That's it for me.
Nice. I'm going to get a little repetitive and mention that I've still been playing Stardew Valley.
Oh.
But I've wanted to point out a very funny story that happened to me this morning. So I got, you can romance people out in the anywhere in the game if you buy them gifts and things like that. So I've got this sweetheart of mine, 10 hearts or whatever, and so then you get a cutscene of just like kind of professing your love. And the way this character does it, Maru, she takes me to her basement, shows me this robot she built to help her parents cope with her leaving eventually to live with me, and the robot turns to her and is like, I have just learned about self-awareness thanks to your self-awareness chip, and I cannot be your servant. I'm going to leave now. And then just takes a rocket and just flies up into space. That is the end of the cutscene.
That's amazing.
And I thought it was so great.
Well, self-awareness, it's a very important thing.
Yeah, and then I hired her mom to expand my barn and bought a goat. So, like, this game is wild. I love it.
It's the weirdest game.
It's the only game that's ever sound appealing to me in any way.
What do you mean? Your best friend dying after being gored by a boar doesn't sound like a fun game? That's how I define entertainment.
That's like gonna be how I lose my husband.
Yeah.
You know? You're laughing because you know it's true.
I'm just imagining he's just going to eat something he shouldn't have eaten and then die.
Like a pine fruit.
Dysentery.
Yeah, of dysentery. That's how I imagine Will leaving this plane.
But then the boar shows up anyways. And like, oh, gotta kick you while you're down.
That's how we lose Will Plummer. Food poisoning, then boar goring.
He'd be so happy for such an exciting story.
Fuck yes, this is epic.
Drink slow brew. Sam, what about you? What have you been doing?
Yesterday, well, it won't be yesterday by the time you're hearing this. So last week at work, the animation show of shows came to my office and they screened all 5 of the Oscar animated shorts. So I saw Animal Behavior, Bow, Late Afternoon, One Small Step, and Weekends. And this is the first year I can remember in a long time where all the animated shorts deserve to be there. Because there's always like one or two where it's like, really, this was the best you could do?
It's one of those, like, I get it, Disney made it, but it doesn't mean it's the best short.
Yeah.
Right.
But in some of them, it's just like, okay, the animation style's neat, but there's literally nothing else there. In this case, all of them were really awesome. Just like, it was such a joy. Most of them made me cry. One of them made me laugh really hard. Animal Behavior was hilarious. It was like a Sunday comic strip come to life.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then Late Afternoon is about a woman dealing with memory loss from her perspective. And it broke me.
Oh,
How long are the shorts?
They're all under 15 minutes. Most of them are probably like in the 5 to 7 minute range. Okay. And they're all trailers of them are currently available on the Academy website. So you can kind of get a feel for their style and stuff. But it was such a treat to have all of them just come and play.
I used to, before having Cuaron, I'd always try to make it to, like, AMC would always do, like, the mix of the live action and the animated shorts. I'd always try to go to that. It was always fun. And then this year, time is a foreign concept to me.
I was just,
time is but a construct.
Yeah. It was just really lucky this year. Like, they bring the filmmakers around to kind of tour all the animation studios and screen their shorts every year. Cool. So got to meet some of the filmmakers, which is always so cool because
that's really cool.
Yeah, they're like, so it's the rare time where you get to meet an Oscar nominee who is truly talented and truly approachable, like it's
and just beside themselves with joy to be nominated.
It was so cool because I had Lottie, my dog, with me at the office, and they were like petting her while I'm sitting there like sobbing over one of their shorts, and they're just like playing with my dog. I'm like, I need her right now. You guys are so good. So I'm really excited because there's no clear winner. And I mean, it'll probably be Pixar, but honestly, like, I think with some of the subject matter, Late Afternoon and One Small Step could easily kind of surprise people.
That's exciting. Mm-hmm. Graham, what about you?
Actually, this week I've been watching this season of True Detective, season 3. It's actually pretty dang good.
Mahershala Ali in it. Of course it's good.
Yeah. And so it's following his character across 3 timelines and 3 different areas of his life. And
Like
he's trying to-
Moonlight.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Wait, did he
Moonlight
die in the
Detective.
first third?
And it's actually really good. I mean, he's incredibly talented. So it's really fun just watching him go along for the ride.
The more I see of him, the more I have the argument if he is the best actor working today. He's so good.
He's really incredible. Yeah. So
I would love to see him and Jake Gyllenhaal in something together.
Yeah, I think they play off well. Really well together. Yeah, for sure.
And they're both just so like chameleon-y.
Yeah, they can be whatever the role needs them to be, which I don't think I ever would have thought about Jake Gyllenhaal until I saw Okja, and it's like, holy shit. That is not what I expected from Jake Gyllenhaal.
yeah, right.
But I mean, I always liked him, but then I loved him. I loved him.
I learned them good.
Speaking of love, shall we start talking about Roma?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying as in love the film itself. We'll get into our opinions
Good.
of it.
Yes.
But the film is very much about love.
Uh-huh.
I think the theme of the movie is that men are shit. The dog turds tell us that.
I don't necessarily think you're wrong.
I know I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
It's pretty heavy.
I don't know. Professor Zovek's pretty cool. Yeah. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Professor
Just for his
Zovek.
feats of strength, and that's pretty much it.
Yep.
And his ability to balance with his eyes closed.
That demonstration was pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
I was definitely trying it as I was watching the movie.
I wasn't.
I was so bored that yes.
I also.
I got to get up and move. I got to do something.
When you have children's toys all over the floor, you cannot afford to make a mistake with that. So I didn't even try.
I had
choose your one spot very carefully.
I had thrown my neck out earlier that day because I'm in my 30s and I sneezed.
Yes.
And that's all it took. And I still have ferocious pain in my neck today, but it's not as bad as it was that night. So I was
just
watching.
made a decision to never sneeze ever again.
That's what I've been trying to do. And
If you hold in a sneeze, you'll throw out your lower back.
I've done that as well. That
I don't
explains
know.
a lot.
Ask Professor Zovek. That's all I'm saying.
It's not like it comes out as a fart, you know?
Just swallow the sneeze. It'll be a trumpet of a fart. This is where I expected the Roma conversation
I
to
wish
go.
that's how
pretty much.
bodies worked. Like
That
you
would
could
be
just choose your
awesome.
hole to expel your.
I would do left nostril for everything.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
That's really nasty because you have facial hair.
I know.
Yes. Extra wipes.
Soup strainer my ass. That joke works on so many levels. Again, this is exactly where I thought the conversation about Roma would go.
You know, if there's poop in a movie, I'm gonna bring it up.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's in there. It's right up in there.
Oh yeah. Before we go too far with this, though, we have our seasoned, accomplished, amazing breakdown specialist here, Mr. Graham T. Mason.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have failed more times than you've succeeded.
Yeah. And I can't express this enough. I do not enjoy this at all. As I enjoyed this as much as the audience probably likes listening
But
to
the more you dislike it, the more I like it. So it really does you no favors. So, Graham, are you feeling good about this one?
No. I have a sentence in my head of how I want to break it down. Because, that's.
Will it take you more than 30 seconds to say that?
Probably. Yeah, it'll probably take me 25 seconds to remember what it is.
All right, so here we maybe go.
Yeah.
Roma in 30 seconds.
Yes.
Here we go, 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 go!
There we go. The timer's on. Yes, the movie's Roma. It's a year in the life of a maid in Mexico in the 70s. And from her point of view, and some things happen. That's that.
I'll
allow it.
I'll give you this one.
Praise me.
Tried to
You're technically
scheme
not
around
wrong.
the details because that's kind of usually where I get caught up.
All right, so I will say it's the worst success we've ever had.
All right.
So you succeeded.
I'll take it.
Horribly.
I'll take it.
Off the record, I watched this week a rough cut of it,
Yep.
and there's a new that is. His name is,
That's,
and I can't wait for you guys to see it. And now we can be back on the record.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I just needed to get that out.
That's phenomenal. Part of me wants to leave it in and just bleep the whole thing.
Whatever you want to do.
Okay, so to start with Roma,
It's in black and white. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did. That's pretty clear.
The worst black and white.
Thank you.
All the landscapes looked like such shit.
Yep.
So that's actually the overall opinion we can save for later. I really want to talk about the cinematography in this movie because it is such a sticking point for so many people. Alfonso Cuaron has been quoted as like, there's no cinema without cinematography, and he got really angry when they decided not to show the cinematography awards in the Academy Awards. I totally agree with him. It's weird that he got that angry the year that he's nominated, but we can let that slide for now. I understand.
Sure.
Right.
I do genuinely believe he would have gotten that angry any other time.
I think so too.
Because
And
it's always a big component of his movies.
Absolutely.
Oh,
So that's why,
yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
agree with you, but it's just kind of one of those like unfortunate, like, well, you're kind of a front runner right now, so
Yeah, I don't want to paint him as a chode when he's not being a chode.
Exactly.
so.
Yeah, I don't either. It's just one of those very unfortunate timing situations.
Let's put those brushes away,
Yes.
please.
Yes.
The chode.
Those chode brushes smell
Put
so
away your chode
weird.
brush.
Why do they smell so weird?
brush.
This is exactly where Roma is supposed to be. But I want to talk about the cinematography because everyone seems to say that this is the most beautiful black and white film ever, and it's not even the best black and white film of the year. Like, it's not like, because I haven't seen Cold War, to be fair. I haven't seen it because I like I said earlier, I don't have a lot of time, but I have tried to get a good feeling of everything that's nominated. So I've watched as many clips and stuff that I can.
Right.
Cold War is shockingly beautiful.
Right.
And
And,
they just-
it won the cinematography award from that guild.
And
So,
it should have, because it's so well done. And this one, it's kind of like what Sam was saying. Like, it's just not good black and white. Like, it's just,
Right.
everything just felt flat. The landscapes, which are supposed to be these long throw shots of just beauty, feel flat and two-dimensional. Like, it just didn't work for me.
And it didn't feel purposeful, like it was
Yeah.
reflecting her worldview or something. It was just
Right.
not good.
and it's in the 70s. It's not like
Yeah.
this was way back when, before color. It's like, this isn't, you're trying to be a period piece in that way. It was definitely a decision that you made,
Yeah.
but why?
And I listened to his explanation of it because I felt that I had to, because as I'm
Yeah.
watching the movie, I'm like, this doesn't work, and I want to know what he was trying to do.
Right.
And the way that he described it was he felt that the black and white would immediately trigger not necessarily nostalgia, but the memory feeling, like the feeling that you're looking at a memory, and that's what he was going for. And I'm like, I don't think that worked. I think you'd be better off shooting on film, like on 35 millimeter. And just giving it that really good grainy old timey look, because if you're trying to
Or
emulate
even
a
just
memory,
go 16.
Yeah.
or 16, but
Yeah,
film,
exactly.
like film is the
Because I
important
felt
thing.
robbed by not having color.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially in the protest scenes and stuff where that would have added to a sense of chaos.
yeah, because like the problem for me is that if you're trying to emulate a memory, you don't go with the most modern technology possible. Like, this is the same
No.
camera they shot Bohemian Rhapsody on. Like, this is a beautiful camera, and
It's
it
a
does
huge camera, too.
Yeah, and it does a beautiful digital image. But if you're trying to get us to feel memory and nostalgia, then why are we using a 2018 camera?
Right.
Yeah.
To show to people who have all grown up on, grain and mess and wrecked film. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reps in, like, old movies, VHS. Like, all we grew up with was distortion and, like,
Yeah. And 1970s is the era of Technicolor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's a color process. And that's what, like, we've seen, movies that were shot in the 70s or, replicating the 70s. 70s. It definitely has its own color, its own tone, its own look. Why aren't you using that? That's what we know. If you want to replicate a memory, if you want to put people in the 70s, then do that.
Yeah, put them in the 70s. Do what Tarantino did with Hateful Eight. Go get 70s lenses. Like,
Yeah.
There might be things you dislike about Hateful Eight. There's plenty to dislike about it, but you can't argue with the way it was shot.
Cinematography for that movie is insane.
Yeah,
the amount
like-
of thought they put into the image is beyond what anybody should have.
But that's what I mean, though. Like, that's what this movie should be, because they
Right.
did that to make that movie feel like it came from
Right.
that time period, and they nailed it.
Yep.
And then you watch this one, and it's like, I feel like I'm watching somebody show me a memory. And it's like, I get what you're trying to do, but I don't think you could have missed by a wider margin. Like, it just
Yeah.
did not work for me.
Especially because the story itself is so messy. I wanted that there was no sort of visceral feeling to the image,
Yeah.
that grain gives you. But these women are living really messy, hard lives, and I would have appreciated some more messy, hard edges.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would have
felt
made it
sterile.
Yeah, and it would have made the contrast of like looking at the wide landscapes and stuff like that, and like the fire scene and stuff like that. It would have made that just so much more vivid and bright and colorful.
Instead, we get
Yeah.
a movie that's tiring to watch because of
my
the
God.
muted colors, the weak. Like, I knew I was in for a bad time, so to speak, when the first the credits pouring over like the tiled floor as the water was going by. It was just so visually not grabbing me. Jandy heard me sign. She's like, "Oh, great, good night."
Yep. It
What's
took me
unfortunate-
3 attempts to make it through the opening credits. I was like, I am not ready. I am just not ready for this.
No, and there's something like it reminded me, and the opening credits could not be more different than this movie, but it set the tone the same way of Nocturnal Animals. Did you see Nocturnal Animals?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it had like Nocturnal Animals. The opening is a bunch of very, very but overweight women naked dancing, and it just kind of has this like we are setting the tone for something that you are not prepared for, and they did it in a way that it was very grabbing. Like it was you can't look away, and it's like what is this? And it just sets the tone for the movie.
Grabbing,
And
but also vaguely irritating.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this one, it felt like it was attempting to do the same thing with the opening credits is just tiles being washed. And it's like...
Well, and the airplanes, the recurring motif of
yeah.
the airplane that never quite added up because
Yep.
of when he chose to use it. And I don't...
I mean, I
don't know.
guess you could say that the washing the tile floor at the beginning with the way the water sounded, it was like the beach scene at the end, kind of calling it
Yeah,
together.
I
But
got
there's
that.
not enough connective tissue. It doesn't become that motif to be able to connect it.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't connect it.
The only successful visual motif, and I know I was joking about this earlier, but the only successful visual motif that was cohesive was the dog shit.
Yeah.
Because there was
definitely.
literally, like,
Yeah.
every time the patio or the driveway was clean versus when it was covered in shit really said something about the condition of the women's lives and whether or not the men in their lives were paying attention to them.
Yeah.
And it was, like, honestly a really cool... That's the thing. This movie could have been so fun and
Yeah.
cool. And I think that shit motif, as weird as that is, speaks to that this could have been a really quirky, humanizing story about this woman because it wasn't tragedy porn, but every shot was so laborious that it actually belabored a story that should have been kinder to its subjects.
And it kind of
Here's-
became
yeah.
a tragedy porn because of all that.
yeah.
And
it
here's
was like-
here's my thing of overall is the reason that worked as a motif and the production design in general was, I think, because it was not Alfonso Cuaron.
yeah.
That was
Yeah.
the one thing that he didn't do.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the credits on this, he directed it, he produced it, he wrote it, he shot it,
it.
and he edited it.
Yep.
Like,
But he didn't production design it.
No.
And there was no sense of pacing. It really just took away because honestly, there were moments that I laughed out loud and really felt connected to these characters. And
Yep.
like the main actress deserves all the accolades she's getting because of how connected. Like I loved her.
Yeah, she
What a
was incredible.
doll.
Yeah, and she felt like a real person, and I feel like that's
Also
what
because she's not Alfonso Cuaron.
Yeah. Well, no, because like even the way she like ran with her friend and stuff, it was just a really honest. It was a sweet performance. I felt like, oh, I know this girl and I
Yeah.
like her and I'm rooting for her. And that way, when she makes her confession at the end that she doesn't want the baby, that she didn't want the baby to be born, it was just like, I don't fault you for that because I didn't want that for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cinematography and the editing, like Alfonso Cuarón really got in his own way on this one. I
Yeah.
don't think he realized what a good thing he had.
And a lot of
Which
times,
is that's one of the things that I put in our note sheet for today was, do we think that the director doing all the jobs hurt the film? And I
Yes.
think
Yes.
I think
so.
from what we're saying,
he's not Steven Soderbergh. And like even as, a
even
fellow
Soderbergh has his problems, but he pulls it off better than this.
Yes. And as a,
He's not
fellow
Paul Thomas
filmmaker.
Anderson either.
Yeah,
who
like-
also frequently does this, but hires a fucking editor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
there-
hire people like us. Jeez.
yeah, like there's a moment where you have to go, I can't do everything. Because if you try to do everything, you like what Sam said, you get in your own way. Like you don't know when to quote unquote kill your babies. That's a great phrase for this movie, but it's one of those things where like you need to know when to stop, and I don't
Yeah.
think he ever did.
That's
And
the
even-
thing. He
even if
didn't
he-
take his own lesson. He didn't
Yeah.
kill the baby.
But I don't
Yeah.
even think having another editor come in at the point where he was also doing the camera work would have helped. Because his camera work was so tied to how he wanted to pace that thing.
Yes.
You could not have edited anything around that because there were so
Yes.
many the ways that the camera moved and then it just kept moving with each cut. And it was like, that was, you designed it that way. But it took
And
forever to get to the next cut. And
Yeah.
So weird.
And I think that was very intentional to where it's like he was designing this movie and he may have totally created it for all of this. Like as he was writing it, he probably visualized, oh, like, oh, we'll cut here, this will be the shot, we'll hold this and we'll pace it this way and blah, blah, blah. But I think he just made a decision, stuck with it, and was like, didn't know if it was a bad idea or not. Just continued to run with it.
Well, I
Yeah,
think
and
he
then if you
very
look at-
much thought it was a good idea. I think he BRYAN this shit.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like if you look at anyone who isn't this podcast right now, they would tell you it was a good idea. That you did a great job. Not only did you do a great job, I've seen people throw around this is the best movie ever made.
Yeah.
Like
which is
No.
absurd.
the praise for this movie is insane. And like even from last week we had Kyle Smith on who loved the movie and said that about 2/3 of the way in he realized he's watching a masterpiece. And I don't fault him for that opinion. Like I see why people enjoy this movie because it has that art house feel of like I'm just
Right.
going to tell a story and you're along for the ride whether you like it or not, and you just have to let the movie wash over you. And that's kind of like the opening credits, what it's kind of telling you to do. You need to just sit with this and let it wash over you just like the water's washing over it. Like I get what he's saying.
It feels
but-
very intentional and very auteur-y and
Exactly.
all of this.
That's
It's
the
great,
problem
sure,
is the story
but
he's
it's
telling is
not-
too good for that shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The story
is
so
incredible.
good.
Yeah.
And he's just so in his own way and up his own butt that we lose
Yeah.
sight of this beautiful woman, Cleo, and how great, like, this is a great story. It's a slice of life that I'd never thought of before.
And
And it
the-
made
I-
me fall in love with her.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I've done a lot of research into this, and with the Mexican audience that have seen the movie, a lot of people say that, like, yeah, it's a good story, but it's a very common story for our culture. Like, this happens
Yeah.
to many women here, and I think that makes the story even like that much better because this is a story that, like, say for the American audience, we don't know this story. Like, this isn't something that happens as often here. I'm sure it still happens, but it's not as common. So getting this point of view, especially from her point of view, like it's a beautiful story that should have a movie to match it. And it has a movie that's telling us that it's matching it. And it will tell us at every turn that it's matching it. But it's like, I made the comment before we started recording that like the subtlety in this movie is as subtle as Gonzo with a rock and a hammer screaming art. And it's just like, I get it. But like while she's getting dumped by her boyfriend or left in the theater by her boyfriend, there's a movie playing again with the plane theme. And the whole time that she's waiting for the boyfriend to come back, the plane is going down. Just it's like, I get it. So
It's a frame within a frame.
Yep, I get it. Oh, yep, the relationship's going down. Are we still watching the plane go? Oh, now we're gonna watch outside the theater for another 2 minutes. It's like we got it, and you didn't need to be that over the top with it. Like as soon as he said, "I'm going to the bathroom," everyone watching this movie goes, "Fuck, he's leaving her."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you know it.
Well, I don't know. He offered to buy her an ice cream, so maybe.
Yeah, and he left his coat, so maybe. But no, everyone watching goes, "Shit."
Yeah.
And then you have to sit there and be hammered with it, and it's like we get it, man. Like you're a good enough storyteller. You don't need to double back and make sure that we got it. And I felt like that was the majority of the movie was Alfonso doubling back and going, "Did you get it? Did you get it? Because this is what's happening."
Yeah, that's why, like, after the movie, I had to take a few minutes after the movie just to kind of
Take a nap.
take a nap, but work through it again, the movie, because for what you said, Sam, it was so interesting. The story, the pieces of it. It's like, oh, that was an interesting part. That was an interesting part. But why did I hate the movie? And like why? How I couldn't. I was also emotionally raw because this movie was like wore me down and then gut punched me later.
Yeah.
And I was so worn down by it. Like the story was so interesting and something I wish I could have like delved into, but I was so busy being like beaten down with just. Did you get it? Did you get it?
The whole time I was just thinking, I was like, how would I have shot this?
Yeah.
Not like this. That's obvious.
At one point I wrote down, this is a really quirky coming of age story. Why is it shot like tragedy porn?
Yeah.
Ew,
Because
man.
it is. It felt like, at a certain point, I felt like I was watching Garden State. You know, not... But that's not a bad thing. Like,
No, I know what you mean.
if it is a common story in Mexico, it's being shot like it's so important. And it's not to say that this woman's life is not important, but that's the whole point. It's important to her. She's coming of age. Like the dead dogs on the wall, it's all this quirk. And it should have been cuter than it was. Even with the dead baby, it should have been cuter than it was. I mean, there's a man doing jujitsu naked with his dong flopping around. Like, it's weirdly, there's parts where it's so fucking charming.
I think the naked karate is where I went, I think I'm in trouble.
That's where
This is not connecting for me.
Yeah. Where it's like, it doesn't ever feel like hers. It's like, this is obviously her story, but we're watching it, like you were saying, like it's so sterile. Like I should be. I feel like I should be very emotionally invested in this story, in her story.
Yeah.
But I'm watching it like through a window.
She's a manic pixie dream girl in her own life.
Yeah. But it's
like
you're not wrong, and but it's one of those things where like he was. I can't say they. This is a one man show.
Yes.
But like, he's going for that fly in the wall of like, I'm gonna stay back here, and you can watch the story happen over there.
Right.
And
it's
like
his bad luck he cast someone too charming.
Yeah, and like, but like it's something where there's very few close-ups in the movie. You don't get a lot of like tight on faces with like very emotional scenes. Like when the baby is dying, like we danced through that scene in Graham's amazing breakdown. But like she gets pregnant in the beginning of the film, and then she delivers stillborn, and the baby is dying, and the doctors are not the most warm people, but they're not cold either. Like they're just about as middle of the road of like, you're having a baby, it's a problem, we're gonna go take care of it. And she's like, I need help, and he's like, it'll be fine. And then it's born stillborn, and we see the entire thing from one camera angle where she's giving birth, and it's about, I want to say like 10 feet back from her. Yeah. And then they take the baby away, and now he's 20 feet away from her, and that's where they're trying to resuscitate him. And it's all very emotional, but it's so, as we've been saying, sterile that you don't really get into it. Like, this is like an emotional, just sledgehammer of a scene.
It's so complicated.
And
too,
yeah,
I wanted to see that mix of relief and guilt and worry.
Yeah, and because of where he was determined to leave the camera, you almost never see her face because if she's
it's all in profile.
Yeah, she's in profile unless she's looking at her baby who's behind her.
Yeah.
So all of her emotional weight of I'm watching my baby not being able to be brought back to life that I just carried and just delivered in a war zone, just horrible, crushing moment. All of her emotion is away from the camera.
And that's kind of
ostensibly off screen.
Where I started to really resent this movie because that scene killed me. I almost had to stop the movie for a while because it was just too much and it was just so sudden.
Yeah.
And like, no movie has really ever hit me that hard to where I'm just in tears already, like so instantly. But then at the same time, I can't see her face. I'm this fly in the wall, and like it's this weird sort of like you're manipulating me into this state of like just absolute wreckage, and like I'm not a part of this. I'm watching this through the stained glass, like the window, like she's watching the other babies get crushed under the earthquake before. Like I'm so distant from this, and it hurt to watch.
Talk about obvious foreshadowing.
I hated that so much. The first time she sees the baby, the whole world shakes, and then one baby doesn't make it. Like, oh my fucking god!
Especially because their VFX babies were like American Sniper level shit.
Okay, that was just a plastic doll.
Of course, you can't resuscitate this baby.
No, but I'm moving its hand. Look, its hand is moving now.
Bradley Cooper just had his hand in like a baby puppet.
Yeah.
It felt like
looks real to me.
That scene where she lost her baby felt like such a bait and switch scene too, because the scene in the furniture store and the grandma's performance was one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Yeah.
When she stands in front of her, it was just like,
and it's not even entirely in front of her, but just enough to like, I need to protect her.
Yeah.
It was that like perfect balance of I need to protect this woman and I don't want to die.
And we didn't see Grandma cry until after Cleo was off screen.
Yeah.
It was like such a sweet, like this woman is such a badass matriarch. She's been taking care of her own daughter. Now she's taking care of this woman. I wanted to see. I was like, I want
that
Grandma's
was getting to
story.
me too. That
I love
got
Grandma.
to me too.
But like that's we've been giving a lot of praise to Yalitza. What's her last name?
Yalitza Aparicio.
We've been giving a lot of praise to her, and the rest of the cast is still phenomenal. Like the acting in this movie, and especially for me, it was Sophia, the mother of the family. Like, oh yeah, it's again where I get mad at Alfonso because I feel like you cast a woman in a part that's not an easy part to play.
No,
like very tough. I know my husband's cheating on me. I have to lie to my kids, and I am breaking down at all times. And she just has these moments of just lashing out of just pure rage. And you can tell she doesn't want to, and it's just so well done. And we get so little from her. Yeah, and everything is always again so far away.
If there were more connection and close up, like that scene at the table at the restaurant where the one kid is crying, whose back is to you, the audience, that like you would have gotten more out of it. But like it was so,
especially
because
those kid actors were good.
They were great.
Incredible.
Paco and Pepe especially were just killing it. When Pepe talked about his past lives, it didn't feel like a precocious kid. No.
Yeah.
And again, more stuff that would have been really cool in a quirky coming of age movie. and was just really heavy-handed and shitty here.
Yeah.
And
It
like,
just feels lazy. Like, he just made a couple of decisions. You're like, no, we're going to have like 60 camera setups. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to put the camera here, and we'll just see what happens. Just do master shots for the whole thing. It's like, yeah.
But they're
But
beautiful master shots, Graham.
But you're missing the stuff, though. Like, you can't.
Well, hold on, they're a little too good. We better put a color correction pass on it just to make it black and white. Default settings.
Worse black and white. It's like the Inkwell filter on Instagram.
And like the most
Yeah.
annoying thing about that is like I was reading about him on the set, and like he wouldn't allow the crew to wear any colors that weren't black and white. Like he wanted everybody in the black and white mindset. And he's going through and he's changing colors on the screen because they shot it in color because they shot it on the Ari. Which one is the Ari Alexa?
65.
65. Which is
The biggest one at the time that they were shooting this. There's now the LF, but
it's a beautiful camera. It works great.
Yes. Incredible.
And they shot it in color, and they would change the colors of things because he's like, this will work better in black and white. I'm like, I think you made the wrong choice every time.
Yeah, when you're shooting in color and you know that you're going to go in black and white, you need to increase the colors that you're shooting.
Yeah.
Because that when you're going into post, then it will really mess with, or not mess with, but really increase and intensify your tones.
And like I'll always go back to, and I know not everybody loved this movie as much as I did, but I always go back to Nebraska, which was shot on film and in color and then processed in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And Alexander Payne nailed it. He knew exactly what colors to use every single time to make that black and white perfect.
Well, he
and
also
crisp.
hired a cinematographer.
That's also a very good point. But whether or not you like the movie, it's beautifully shot.
Right.
And like this one, it's a constant blinking sign of like, this is beautifully shot. It's like, I don't believe that sign.
No.
It's like an exit sign here over a door that doesn't open to anything. It's like
I would have honestly, I think I would have liked this movie a little bit better if they just released it in color.
yeah, and I'm never one to argue about watching a black and white movie because I don't care. Like whatever story you think is, whatever the way that you think is the best way to tell your story, I'm on board for.
If it needs it.
If it
requires it.
Yeah.
But that's the problem.
I think
And
Why?
sometimes
maybe
even when it doesn't-
camera movement in this is obviously extremely intentional.
Yeah.
But camera movement, camera placement,
But now
and shooting in black and white, I just feel like are all just wrong decisions.
If you've never heard like Cuaron talk about this movie and know that he wanted to do the dream like nostalgia thing going on, was that even being communicated? I don't think so. Like the whole like
No.
It feels like it was a lazy attempt at film noir to me.
and I watched a bunch of film noir and I love how sharp
Film noir is
and
incredible.
angry
Yeah.
black and white color
Yeah.
color like contrast is my jam. I love it.
And like that's I watched this movie with Chewie, and Chewie the whole time like she's getting mad at the screen. I'm like, why is this so ugly? Like why is everything in focus? And it's like that is a choice. I understand that choice, and it does work for certain things. But when you're having everything take place at least 10 to 20 feet in front of the camera, it's all got to be in focus.
yeah. Yeah.
just ends
I mean,
up feeling
that's just
like
how
a mess.
hyperfocal works.
Yeah, and then exactly. The whole thing ends up feeling like a mess, and it gives it kind of a 2D flat image, which is clearly not what everyone else is seeing when I'm reading reviews. But I feel like I'm taking crazy pills over here. Like, what the hell?
It honestly made me wonder if I had turned that steady motion or
Smooth motion.
Smooth
smooth
motion,
motion
yeah.
back on my TV, and I
Yeah.
was like, William, we agreed. We're not a smooth motion household.
Send in the boars.
Do you think Cuaron was trying to make like a metatextual point that he is the dad stepping in shit?
I don't know, because they've said that this movie is semi-autobiographical for him.
So
Yes.
he's the dad stepping in shit.
He's one of the children.
I believe he's
technically.
one of the children.
Yeah.
Probably the shitty friend that like was making fun of poor Tonio for
That
seeing
was-
his dad cheating. That little like nerd friend. I bet that's Cuaron. He's like, my dad was cool. Look at Tonio's sad life.
What was that earlier about?
This is
not
probably
painting
what
him
his
like a-
sad life looked like. A real shitty movie.
I hope he
used to
watches this.
daydream
Shot
about
terribly.
Tonio's sad life.
I hope he watches this and cries.
What was that earlier about not painting Cuaron like a chode?
That's out
In
the
that instance, we can bring the chode brush back out now.
Yeah.
God love the chode brush.
I want that shirt.
Hold on one second.
Nope, you're wrong.
So I cards on the table. I know this episode is coming out after the Academy Awards have already aired. We are recording it the day before they air, so we don't know yet if this is won Best Picture. It is the front runner in most trades and whatnot. They say Roma's likely to win because Netflix has spent like $1 billion on advertising, because apparently all it takes to win an Academy Award is advertising.
Well, yeah.
Which, if you didn't know that, sorry to burst the bubble.
Yeah.
But Netflix is desperate for a win here because they want to prove that they are the movie-making company that they think that they are.
They want to prove they're not going to be in trouble when Disney Plus comes out.
Yeah, and like all the
won't
politics
be.
of it
True.
behind it, like
Yeah,
sure, like whatever you want to call it. Do we think that this was? I mean, out of the ones nominated, do we think this is the best picture of the year?
No.
I'm going with a pretty solid no around the table,
No.
right?
No.
And
I
it's
have only seen like 4 of the nominees, and the other 3 I saw were better than this.
like
I'm surprised it was nominated, to be honest.
I'm not surprised it's nominated because again,
Neither am I.
He tried
Alfonso
so
Cuaron,
hard
he
to
did a
get
lot
it.
in this. Did
I
you,
mean-
did you hear about Alfonso Cuaron? He did a bunch of stuff on
Every
this movie.
frame of that was, this is prestige.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
Like this is an Oscar bait movie
Yeah.
through and through, and I don't always think there's anything wrong with that necessarily. Like I love Gladiator, which is a purebred Oscar bait movie from frame one, but like I think they can be decent, and sometimes they can be this.
I mean, Lord of the Rings, you know.
I still think Lord of the Rings was Oscar bait, but
Huh?
I,
It was Oscar. It was 100% Oscar
Yeah.
bait.
the third one was. I don't think the first one necessarily was.
They were all shot concurrently.
That's true.
Like, they're all...
They
it's
did
fine.
reshoots in between each one of them. They could have added a little bit. It doesn't matter. The long and the short of it is, like, this is another one of those movies that is. It reminds me of The Artist, of a film that came out, and it's not just because they're both black and white. It's a
Oh,
film.
they are both black and white.
Never mind. That's it.
Huzzah! We found it.
But it's a movie that it's come out and it's reminiscent of a different era, and everyone right now can't stop jerking off to it. It's like, did you see it? It's so good. It's so important. It's so meaningful. And I feel like after tomorrow, like this episode being after the hype, we could not be more after the hype. I'm pretty sure we could be talking about this movie on Monday, and whether it won or lost, people have moved on.
Yes.
Right. Which is funny that you mentioned The Artist, because ironically enough, there was a black and white Snow White adaptation in Spain, I think.
Yeah.
Infinitely better and did the same job that The Artist tried to do.
And it's like, I don't even think The Artist was a bad film. In fact, I probably like it a lot more than I like this one. But it was just another one of those, like, oh, I get what you're doing here. I've seen it once. I can move on. And this one, like, I've seen it once. I will never revisit the movie.
No.
And even for the scenes that I liked. And that's kind of where I want to move into past the Best Picture. So we've really, really taken shots at this thing across the board. Beyond just the actors, which we all agree are good, what worked in the movie? Like, was there anything that actually stood out to you as like quality?
I loved the running car gag.
Yeah, and the spot the car that's a little too big for the spot they park
It's
in.
so funny, and it like I find it endlessly relatable. My driveway is impossible to pull
Yes,
out
it
of.
is.
I hate it. I've been hit twice. It's awful. Like it's
I broke your gate once.
yeah, it's horror. It's like genuinely horrible, and I loved. Because there's sometimes when you're just having a bad day and then your driveway makes it worse and you're like, I'm trapped. And I really loved that. And I loved, like, I just loved when I loved the mom and her hatred for driving and just, like, that just made her circumstances even worse. You know, it was just like this constant slap in the face. I really, really loved that.
Her pulling between the two trucks.
Oh my
That
God.
was
And then afterwards going to the
Pew, pew,
market
pew.
or whatever, or going to the doctor's office, and they pull up to the parking spot, and the thing is just hanging off the side. And she steps around it. And I was like, yes.
I love the smile on her face after she basically crashes the car into the garage as she's parking, and she just gets out like, I did a good job.
Parked.
Yep. Graham, did you have a thing that really worked for you?
Professor Zovek was pretty awesome.
Yes.
So there was
Portrayed by
that.
Latin Lover.
Yes, Latin lover indeed. And yeah, I don't know. I think his repetitious character was pretty awesome. How we saw him first on the television, and then as we were passing by that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. For me, the thing that worked the best for me, and it wasn't a comedic moment at all. It's when they're doing the furniture shopping and then the riots start.
Oh,
because the riots are that's all 100% factual. Like that happened. Like that is a real moment from Mexican history, and it was a really weird way to experience that particular situation. And I mean weird in a good way, because I always like the the idea of like, here's a huge tragedy, what's happening to the people on the ground. And it's something like, especially in major box offices and like big pictures, we lose sight of the little guy in these huge, like the Avengers are taking on the Chitauri, and we'll see a person in a coffee shop going, oh no, and then that's the end of it. And this one we get none of the major event. We see that it's happening, and then the only point of view we get is from one little offshoot of a guy who ticked somebody off and was running away to try to save his life and gets chased down and gunned down. And it's just, it's vicious and it's hard to watch. And it was the only point in the movie where I was 100% engaged.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is horrifying. Because like, what do you do? Like, there's
You
so
be
many.
like grandma and step in.
Yeah, you and like and then just like the icing on the cake was that it was her baby daddy who was holding the gun on her, because you don't know who it is right away. You just have a gun enter the screen pointed at where you assume Cleo is, and as the camera turns, you see who's holding the gun, and it's like, fuck. And it's like one of those moments where I lost myself in the movie. And it's like, if the whole movie had this level, and I don't need it to be this level of intensity. That's insane. That'd be like Gravity or something. But but like, I didn't need that level of intensity the whole way through. I needed that level of storytelling. Because it's that moment right there that goes, no, this is why when Alfonso Cuaron releases a movie and it's black and white, people go, it's going to be fucking genius because it's this guy and he can tell these stories. And I just wish the whole movie had that level of dedication.
See, and I think maybe that scene is why he made it, whether he realizes it or not. The whole like nostalgic kind of like, just have a fly in the wall thing. Like, that's the scene that sells the movie for me.
Yeah.
That was where I started watching this and paying attention. And it's what also primed me to be so raw for everything that happened after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I'd even heard like I read a review of I don't remember where it came from, but it was somebody who basically said the first hour and a half of the movie kind of lulled me almost to sleep, and then it punches you in the gut. And it's like, okay, I can kind of see what they're saying there, but like the gut punch that comes late in the movie, the scene that we're talking about, isn't enough for me to redeem the hour and a half of, why is this shot like this? Like, I just want to know her story.
That
like,
scene was so poorly done.
Yeah. So it's just, I loved that scene, and then the rest of the movie, I'm just kind of,
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, it's like, was that the kernel that started this whole thing? You're like, oh man, I have this wonderful scene that I could write the rest of this movie around.
I don't know.
And then he just failed from the rest of it.
I do have a question though.
Shoot.
Why was that man singing while the woods was burning?
I have no fucking
He was
idea.
wearing kindling.
See,
That's exactly what I said when he walked out. I'm like, don't let that guy near the fire. He's going to go up so fast.
Maybe it's my
And a big
fault.
wooden mask.
Like, I felt bad because I didn't understand his song and it wasn't subtitled.
Yep.
And I was like, damn, like maybe I should get back on Duolingo and maybe I'll appreciate this movie. But then I was like, no,
No.
he's
Not
not
worth
even
it.
a main character and the fire looks like shit. So suck a dick.
And that's
Yep.
what's funny is on Netflix we had the subtitles on. If I remember right, at the beginning it was like, we're not going to subtitle everything.
Yeah,
It's
they,
like-
they subtitle, which we didn't talk about at all, but they didn't. They do. It's both Spanish and was it Mixto? Is that the name of the other language? I believe.
Yeah, Mixto's like the
Mixto. Sorry.
yeah,
But yeah, so they
it's
subtitle.
like a Oaxacan dialect.
Yeah, so they subtitle one in regular subtitles, and then anything in Mixto is in brackets, and then anything other than that is not subtitled, which
Yeah.
I think only really came into play with that guy's song.
With that guy's song.
And the German movie.
Oh, in the German movie. Yeah.
Because all you really needed to get was the plane crash.
Yeah.
Did you
Oh, it
get
was a
it? Did you get it?
crash. Oh, I see.
Crash.
Now it
is
makes sense.
Crash is more subtle than this movie.
Oh,
That's not true at all.
yeah. Come on, buddy.
You couldn't keep a straight face on that. You couldn't keep a straight face on that.
Talk about bringing out the chode brush. That was like the micropeen brush.
Woof.
I didn't know there was a micropene brush.
we're
now you
we're
know.
straight up a Michael store in this here. But
Uh,
I think that the addition of those characters is like, it's almost like a weird Coen-esque feel that's like not like doesn't belong in this movie.
Yeah.
I think if
Yeah.
you had taken a page out of the Coen brothers book and done the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" sepia tone with color,
Oh yeah,
it would have been much
get
better.
that 70s like kind
Yeah.
of like
Basically,
faded
he
dark
should have
red.
hired a cinematographer.
Yep.
Weird.
I'm even okay with the director editing his own movie. I'm okay with that.
Well, yeah, because the Coen
Sure.
brothers do that, and it's
Coen
great.
Coen Brothers do it. Other people that I can't think of.
Yeah.
My other example off the top of my head was Kevin Smith, but that's not a good example.
It's not the worst example.
Sure. I mean,
Lately,
Clerks
it's
too.
the worst example.
Yes.
Lately, yeah.
Yeah.
But
back in the
sometimes
day.
it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes it's okay.
And it's not to say, I mean, again, we've said like Steven Soderbergh and other people who have done it effectively, and it's saying, and we've questioned this as fellow filmmakers of like, man, I really wonder if I could ever do that, and I don't ever think that I could do all of the things, and that's fine.
And here's
Shit,
where
I know I can't do any of the things, so I step the fuck out of the filmmaking.
But here's my counter to that of, can I do all these things? No. If I could, would I? No.
No.
Because I'm not that cocky, damn it. Like, it's just not.
And that's what filmmaking is all about, is working with other people and coming in with other ideas and making the best decisions out of all of the decisions
Well, you
together.
come to find, like in school or as you're kind of developing your voice, you fear that everyone will just come in and ruin your vision. But now these days, it's like, I want to see what everyone else brings to the mix. Let's make us a hot dish of wonderful goodness of cinema.
You're from Minnesota? What are you talking about?
Yes.
It's called a casserole.
I tried to say salad, but I was like, no one eats that.
No one eats hot dishes either. They're called casseroles.
Yeah. That's
It's
why,
like how to make the best decisions out of all of this. You're like, wait, what if we had someone dedicated to cinematography decisions?
yeah.
What if we had somebody dedicated to production design? Man, that'd be incredible. And what, like we just talked about, is production design was
The
one
production
of the
design was
best
beautiful,
things
and I
that
kind of
was
hope it wins. I
designed
don't
in
think
this
it's
whole thing.
going to, but I kind of hope it wins.
there's a lot of good contenders this year for
Yeah.
production design.
Absolutely.
But this deserves to be among them.
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
And if this wins, it earned it. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Sure.
But what we're, just to not leave the auteur thing just for a second, I just want to bring up, there's when we all went to the same school. I'm not sure if we were all at the same screening. I went to the screening of Perfume, which was directed by Tom Tykwer, who's unfortunately not done a lot lately, which it's too bad because I thought he was a really good director.
Yeah.
And at the time when we were in school, Columbia was really pushing everyone should be an auteur. Auteurs are great.
Every
Everyone's
single
auteurs.
person.
And it's like,
You're your own auteur.
fuck off, Columbia. Calm down. We're at a whole school about collaborating. Why are you not encouraging that, you
that
fuckers?
shit's why I graduated early.
Yeah. Either way, so when we were we watched the movie, then he came out to give a little speech, and the way that he described it was stuck with me forever. And if I ever get to be a successful director, I will credit this to him. Where he's like, so they asked me to talk about my auteurship. I'm not an auteur. I don't think anyone should be an auteur. I think that's a waste of time, and you're not hiring people to do the jobs that they're meant to do. Auteurs waste time. And it's like, I love this guy.
I love him too. Right now,
Yeah.
just hearing that again.
Yeah.
I think that's why I found such a home in animation,
Yeah.
because you literally cannot make an animated film, especially a CG animated film, alone.
Yeah.
You just,
God.
it's not possible.
I mean, if you want to release it like in 80 years from now.
But even then, like the tech help and the evolution of
Yeah.
technology would prevent you from doing that.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. You just can't. And that's kind of why I love it, because there is no figurehead unless you like, and even the people that have tried to be figureheads have all kind of fallen by the wayside recently. By Katzenberg and Lasseter. And I think that's what makes it so special, because you end up with something that collaboration is so important. And I think this movie proves that. He got so in his own way. And what could have truly, I think, been a masterpiece. Like, I see the kernels that people are seeing, but it's just so heavy-handed. And he's the dad.
What if somebody had been there to say, let's do it this way instead?
Yes.
You're fired.
Yeah. But still, an editor would have been so nice.
Yeah. I mean, he had
Cinematographer
it.
have been really nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's pretty much everything I had to talk about today. So I think it's time to move into quotes if you have one. I know this is not a very quotable
do.
movie.
I've been looking forward to my quote, you guys.
Go for it.
Pew, 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 crash. I know that.
That works.
Mine is the opening line of the movie, which is, "You need a bath, Boris."
That was my secondary.
That's a good one. I went for more of an honest one, and mine was I don't remember exactly how she said it.
Mine was honest, damn it. I've been there.
I meant more
Hashtag relatable.
more of an emotional moment. And I went for the moment when she reveals that she never wanted the baby, and it was just I never wanted her to be born, and it was just like when we were watching it, Chewie was like, "Why would she say that now?" And it wasn't like a critique against the movie of like, "Why is this now?" It was more of like trying to figure out like, "Why is this the moment?" And the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, she just almost killed herself to save kids that weren't hers. she knows she loves children and she didn't want hers, and that is bothering her. And
I think also she belongs in that family.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
And-
Like they
her
need her, and that
adopted
baby would
family.
have taken her
yeah.
from them.
And it's like this really, really bitter but kind of sweet moment of, I was never meant to have that baby because I didn't want it, but I do want you. It's not that I'm incapable of love. I just didn't want to love her. And it's just like this.
Well, because Pepe remembers her from when he
Yeah.
was an adult, and that's what that's what I really loved about this
Yeah.
movie is there's that sense that she belongs with them. When Grandma started crying after she left, it was like this woman treated her like her own daughter. As
Yeah.
much as she said, "I'm her employer," she was heartbroken that she didn't know more about her. Like, yeah.
And it's those moments, and I'm like, when I hear people say this was a masterpiece, I'm like, I can see why you say that. I disagree with you, but I think that those things were there. They were shrouded in everything else that wasn't.
They were shrouded in the ego of Alfonso.
Yeah,
Alfonso Cuaron.
John?
Mine is kind of an interesting one. We dogged on the scene a little bit too for its setup and construction, but the dinner table scene at the restaurant where she's just trying to make sense of, like trying to explain to the kids what's going on and all that, and the kid is crying. And it's just that fly on the wall moment. As someone who has dealt with tragedy, that's how you kind of disassociate yourself, and that to an extent it is realistic, which is why I didn't want to relive some of these things. But you step back and you are wide shot, looking at yourself, but you're not seeing yourself. You're just not in the picture. You're just absorbing the whole pain. And I thought that was a very powerful moment.
Yeah.
At least kind of what it started to pull at me for, like how it started to kind of twist at my emotions, especially being so beaten down and like raw from other moments. It was just, that was kind of, for me, it was a big moment.
Yeah, that works. So the review system for today, and I brought it up because I'm betting against this movie for some reason. I don't think it's going to win tomorrow. If it does, fine. And if it doesn't, fine. I'm not very into really anything nominated this year, which is whatever. You
Fine.
always have to be. It's fine.
I really liked Vice. I'm really rooting for it. It won't win, but
I haven't seen it yet. The only ones that I've seen are Roma and Black Panther. I've missed
Adam
everything
McKay
else.
is dope. Like he's the guy to watch for me.
I hear it's just very infuriating, but well made.
Oh yeah, watching it in a
Yeah.
foreign country was the strangest experience of my life. I literally just wanted to back out of the theater and be like, "I'm Canadian."
sorry, I'm Canadian.
Sorry.
But then like, that's not a real accent. You American?
Your husband's in an American flag shirt. I know.
Of course. he is.
Ironically, it's a joke.
So the review system for today is movies that have lost Best Picture.
La La Land. It could have been good and it sucked.
Oof.
The camera moved in such a way that I felt distant from it. And it was a front runner for some inexplicable reason.
That's what I had lined up, so I don't want to use the same one as yours. I'll think for a moment. You guys can go ahead.
All right. For me, I'm gonna go Tree of Life. That
All right.
it's like it's pushing. It's kind of clumsily wielding its cinematography to try to evoke some emotional state. I mean, I like the movie, but in its pieces, but it just overall is like, okay, you needed other people to help collaborate this.
Yeah.
I had a visceral hatred for that movie.
Same.
Never saw it.
Wanted to throw it at a wall.
I wanted to walk out. I was so mad.
I'm going to go with Boyhood just because it was one of those art movies.
Yeah.
Wait, Boyhood
was-
didn't win?
No.
Oh.
Birdman won that year.
Oh,
which,
I would have picked Boyhood if I thought it didn't win.
which
So I hear
versus
you.
Birdman, where it's like Birdman was very intentionally shot, and that worked for that movie. You're like, wow, that's incredible. Wow, it's very intentional, lots of very specific decisions made, cinematography, just shooting that whole movie. Whereas Boyhood, again,
He
a lot of
ages in real time.
very specific decisions, which, again, honestly, I think Boyhood was better than this. Just because, okay, you had an idea, you stuck with it, you did it the best of your ability, and that was actually more effective than this of making a bunch of bad decisions and sticking with them and just making a bad and ruining a good story.
All right, so I have mine. This one, it's all film nerds out there are going to get really mad at me
Yay.
really fast. I'm going with Citizen Kane. And now the black and white Citizen Kane is impeccable. That movie is so well shot, it's scary.
Yeah.
So it's not about that, but it is a movie where everyone has told me this movie is the bee's knees. It is the greatest film ever made. And when I finally saw it, I went, it's a good movie. And that's kind of where I ended. And I feel like that's kind of the same scale for me on Roma. If Roma's the best movie of today, and I thought it was kind of okay to slightly little bit better than bad, but not much better than bad, I think that scale would be the same for Citizen Kane is the greatest of all time. I thought it was good. So if you slide that back one section to Roma, then we're kind of in the same scaling.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me.
Also heavy-handed symbolism.
Yes, lots of heavy-handed symbolism. But again, done better in Citizen Kane.
Runs long and
that
has boring
cockatoo
parts.
is dope.
Yeah.
It runs long and has boring parts too.
Yeah. So yeah,
Cockatoo,
works.
dog shit. I don't know.
That is it for today's episode. Let's do a quick round of plugs. Graham, what do you have to plug?
I'm also on another podcast.
What's it called?
Venture Bros, if you're familiar with it. Oh, okay.
Is that the one where the guy gives really
Venture-
great breakdowns of the episode?
One of them is extremely good. Yeah, and loves doing it. And yeah, that guy's good. Sounds pretty much exactly like I do.
Say the full name of the podcast.
Venture Bros, a Venture Brothers podcast.
Thank you.
Is the full name of the podcast. It's also on this network.
Yep.
I plug your podcast better than you plug your
This is the first time I've ever had any opportunity to plug it. Because usually I'm just on the podcast in which I would be plugging, which would be useless.
You've
So
done
the-
it once before.
I did. That's true.
I would actually love it if your guys' show did that though. Just sort of plug in your own show at the end of it.
Anything to plug? Yeah. Venture Bros podcast. I hear good
If you want to
things.
listen to it, just rewind the current episode that you're listening to.
Yeah, just hit the rewind button. That's
And you'll-
still a thing.
Just
And
have
you'll
the
be good.
boilerplate after the hype. On Mondays, we have Venture Bros, a Venture Brothers podcast. On Tuesdays, Samwise, an advice podcast in which I, Sam, answer every question using Lord of the Rings and its extended editions. And on Thursdays, we have the OG, After the Hype.
What?
What?
That's-
Tune in.
You've done that before.
Yeah, that's much better than
I do it.
both mine and yours. I will also say coming up next week, we are doing another Best Picture contender. I don't think it won either, but we'll find out tomorrow. Bohemian Rhapsody, and then the week after that, we have Anna and the Apocalypse, which I'm so excited to see because I refuse to watch the trailer. I know nothing about it other than zombies and musical, so I'm very excited to see that movie. And then coming up the week after that, we have my favorite movie from last year, Your Name, and I am so fucking excited.
I'm excited to see that
to
one.
talk about Your Name. It is a beautiful, amazing movie that everybody should see. So I'm telling you now, so you have 3 weeks to watch it before we spoil everything, because it should not be spoiled for you. You should go in blind. So go see Your Name before we talk about it.
Don't go in blind because it's visually stunning.
Yeah, that'd be upsetting.
It's a movie, meaning motion pictures. Pictures are very visual, so I'm sure it works as an audiobook, but probably not as
the podcast
effectively.
of Your Name is just not the same.
Yeah, no, it won't work as well. So make sure you see the movie. That's it for me. Plug-wise, John, anything to plug?
Nope. Demon Days is coming, but it's off in the distance still, and
Cool.
we'll say more when it gets here.
Same for a Dogs podcast. Still being worked on, but since Emily is at work as often as she is right now, I think it's been put on the back burner for just a couple of weeks, and then we're going to get back to it. She has a whole calendar and everything lined up, so it will start coming pretty quick as soon as she's able to do it. All exciting stuff. And other than that, I will say this will
Don't forget to check out athpod.com for articles every Wednesday and Friday. We're working to expand that a little bit more in the future. And just because I kind of buried it in my other pitch, Samwise on Tuesdays, please submit your questions. I need them. I swear I can answer anything. I have not failed yet.
She's not wrong.
It's impressive, yeah.
I do a quick QC on all of them, and so far I've been impressed every week. And then the other plug that I'll throw out there, just for the last time, if you haven't read it yet, Matt's Babylon 5 article, it's fucking incredible, and everyone should read it. And that's everything. We've done all the housekeeping, so we can say bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Adios.